This is the BAM School Podcast, where we talk about business, adventure, and mission with your host, Buddy Rathmel.
All right, let's go. I'm here with my guest, Adam Jones. He is a three-continent friend. We first met after he had purchased a castle in Germany, and we've had time together in Ireland and Japan and the great country of America. He has a master's in business and a heart for the master. He was vice president of the Oklahoma City Rescue Mission and currently president of the Harbor House Foundation. I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I know I will. I'm always blessed and encouraged and strengthened after I spend a little bit of time with Adam. He is encouraging without being fake. He's inspiring without being trite. And he's prophetic when he needs to be, while still being gentle. Great to have you on the show, Adam. I'm looking forward to today.
Thank you so much, buddy. That was quite the introduction. I'm grateful to be here with you.
Yeah. Give our listeners a little bit of background on you.
Well, I am a divorced father of 5, and I help run an organization that is committed to affordable housing and wraparound services.
Wraparound services. What's that?
Well, typically when someone is in a situation where they need affordable housing, there may be some constructs in their life, either missing information or access to certain services, whether it's medical, dental, mental health, food. And so through wraparound services, not only do we provide affordable housing, but we also provide access to connecting to those resources. So we spend a lot of time in not just helping meet the need where they find themselves now, but how do we help them, for lack of better terms, evolve and progress into a more stable way of life.
Cool. Sounds great. So,
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you have to tell us a little bit. Is it a fairy tale to live in a castle in Germany? What's the reality of living at a castle?
It is. It's never. I've had a couple of rental homes in my life, and taking care of something that's over 400 years old is everyone needs that experience.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that everyone needs it. No, it was great. It's uncanny. I think it's just a testament to God getting things done creatively in our lives. You have kind of a hope and a heart to see something accomplished, and you don't consider elements like that in your life, like a castle. It is a bizarre story. Maybe we can talk about it another time, how it all came to be, but it is the reality, and it's a fun story, and it's always an opportunity to be able to point people back to Jesus and just how creative and crazy things can get when you're just taking steps of faith that don't look like they have a castle in them, but then all of a sudden you find yourself at the gates and you're going, wait a second. Okay, well, I guess I'll use this. It ends up being a tool. It's awesome. Yeah. We've had a lot of people that don't understand it, and a lot of people that were encouraged and increased by it. And it's great.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a 400-year-old castle. It was built in 1667.
Wow. Insane in the membrane. So what have been some of the adventures for you along the way, Adam?
Well, certainly Germany was one of them. I got to meet a lot of interesting people. I mean, like yourself, obviously, lifetime friends, and seeing, anytime you have your mind and your perspectives challenged, that, there's more than one road to the destination. That was a great experience for me. It was very challenging. It was painful. It was enlightening. The whole experience was wonderful. And then I would say parenting.
Yeah.
Marriage and parenting has probably been, one of my favorite adventures along the way. Both, what is it? It's all the pieces where little parts of you die and then it comes back and then it comes back stronger. And I've just enjoyed that whole process. I look at my kids now and I think, man, because I'm with 3 of them. My youngest son is about to be a senior. And, by the time they're a senior, your role as a father is already changing,
Yeah.
and more of a, I don't know, counselor
Yeah.
than a setting the path. And so I'm like, oh, it's bittersweet. It's they're doing what you've raised them to do, but then you're like, yeah, but I don't like this part. I want you to stick around a little bit.
Yeah.
And so there's a part of me that is also changing and healing, is that I remember looking back through the other times that I would look at adult kids or older kids that were still living at home, or, still kind of hanging around. There was probably a judgmental part of me that would look at that and be like, oh, well, you could have done a better job parenting. I mean, like, what a horrible perspective to have. And now, as one who has kids, I'm like, oh, I completely get it. You want to stay a little bit longer? I'm totally fine with that. I'm great with that. So yeah. How's that for being verbose?
No, it's great, man. So one time I remember you mentioning that you encouraged your kids to put on the armor of God while getting ready for the day. So what are some of the things that you've done as a dad to help your kids live out that spirit of adventure in their faith?
Well, I think there's a lot of adventure in spending a lot of time developing who you are. There's plenty of time to evolve into what you do, and we spend a lot of time in society looking at what people do. And I'll use an example. My oldest son, for whatever reason, I'm not an athlete. I didn't come from a family of athletes. For whatever reason, my oldest son ended up playing Division I football for a Big 12 school. And he got full scholarship. He was ranked in the top 10 in the nation. I mean, just a tremendous athlete for his position, and did great. And now he's graduating this year from school, so I'm really proud of him. But I remember, I live in a relatively small town, and that was big news. It was rare that they would have, Division I, big conference athlete come out of the school. And so he got a lot of press, got a lot of people noticing him, talking to him, weird things. Then my next son goes into the Air Force. He was, had, at the same time that my oldest son was, had signed his commitment letter to go to the school. And then at the same time, my next son is making application to go to the Air Force Academy, and he wants to be a pilot. I started to get high on what my kids were doing, because people were like, oh, hey, maybe you could talk to me about, this and that. And hey, can you give me a little insight, or how did you get your kid to be able to do this? And, as a father, it was almost not even about my kids anymore. It was about how great I felt. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, the feedback I was getting became a drug. I was like, I'm raising good kids. I must be good. Like, I never had that conversation with anybody, but I was internalizing this message that somehow I was a great parent.
Yeah.
And then my second son starts tripping up in school, he had to go before a judge. There was like smoking, and then my oldest son was doubting himself and wanted to quit school. And I'm like, no. Like a drug addict. You can't take this away from me. You can't take these talking points away from me, And I, thankfully, I've got some great parents who spoke a lot of wisdom to me, and the course correction of getting outside of the drug of, I don't know, accolades or whatever. That's never really been my bag, but for whatever reason, man, it fueled a lot of the way I was parenting. And then to realize, wait a second, they're human beings, and I'm in my 40s and I don't have it all figured out. Why would I expect, a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old? My goodness. It's a good thing I wasn't on a platform at 16 or 17 years old, because I would have offended a lot of people. Anyway, the journey and the adventure in their faith is spending time following the leading of the Holy Spirit in who they are. And when they can develop that practice, that daily intentional practice of looking into themselves and saying, okay, God, who am I that you're creating? So the word becoming has been a big buzzword with me and my kids, is what and who are you becoming?
Yeah.
Forget about what you're doing. That will evolve over time. If you become well in who God is creating you to become, then what you do, it won't even matter at that point. I mean, because what you do will be the right thing at that point or season in your life. So it's that adventure, because what put yourself in a 17, 18, 19-year-old shoes right now. Where are you going to college? What career are you choosing? What, you dating somebody, you're going to get married, you're going to have kids. It's all about what they're doing and not who they're becoming. So that adventure of staying outside of that discourse and that storyline of you, because you're this age, you're irresponsible if you're not. So that's been, as a father, that's been a big transition for me. And then also promoting that to the kids and trying to give them as much space as they can to settle into becoming who God has them to become.
Yeah.
So
that's so great, man. That is gold. I love that, of thinking, what are you working on becoming? My niece is actually coming back to the house today. I haven't seen her in a couple of years. And, I was just thinking, she would so much more resonate with that question than what am I going to do? What are you doing? Where are you headed? What's your plan after college? And even as you were talking, I'm like thinking, that's awesome. Like, just even that question to somebody spurs them to think about the right things more than the worldly things. It's like, wow, that's gold. Thanks, man.
Well, and think about it. Well, thank you. You asked me in the beginning, like before we started the podcast, of, what's going on in my life. And there is a part of me that has a lot of anxiety over that, because think about my own story and what we were talking about this project that was started, that we talked about, that I was excited about. And, as we all do, I was starting to pull on a little bit of identity of, oh, okay, well, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I guess, I'm quasi good at it. I mean, I don't know on what level, how you rate that, but it's working. I can talk about it. I'm getting a lot of accolades for pushing this through as for a noble cause. And then what happened? It didn't work out. So who I am and what I do I have to constantly they want to do this, and I have to keep pulling them apart, because if I identify in what I do, then in a second, I mean, we were talking about this gentleman earlier who had been working for 30 plus years. Yeah. And then what happened?
Yeah.
I mean, in a moment, stroke of a pen, what he's doing is gone. Yeah. And so who you are, it's almost a story of Job, isn't it? Like the who you are has to be so concrete that it can weather the inconsistencies of what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, I guess, are fortunate enough to pick one thing and do it for their entire life, but I don't know too many people like that.
Yeah.
I think they're the exceptions to the rule. Yeah, because otherwise you have all these feelings of shame and failure and guilt, and man, I had my fair share of that. In fact, to use yet another example to belabor the point, even in marriage, my marriage failed. Yeah. And one of the toughest parts to untangle was, as a husband, I brought who I was to the role of husband, but my role changed. And so a lot of the stress and anxiety I felt and experienced was that what I was doing, I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to me. That's not fair to anyone else. It's not fair in the overall, what is this? What am I doing?
Art.
In the overall yeah, the arc of life, I owe it to myself and the people that I impact, influence, in relationship with, to not drag myself and them through my failure in a role, but to shore up who I am so that whenever I am in those different capacities, that I'm bringing the best part of me to them, instead of being like, oh, well, depending on who you're talking to, maybe I was a crap husband. I don't know. But I know that I can pull back from that and be like, oh, well, yeah, I probably could have done things better, different. What is the old saying? Shoulda, coulda, didn't. Yeah. But if part of who I am is, I think school's always in session, well, then I better start learning. I better dig into me and figure out what's going on so that I become better.
Yeah.
So that whenever I move into a new capacity or a new role in what I'm doing, it's stronger. I'm 5% better or 10%, a 10% better, more improved me. Yeah.
Yeah. I always think of when I lived here in Roanoke, Virginia in 2006, my role with Cadence, like Jeff Campbell had created a role, and I got to do like youth pastor training, and I went to Germany and did, discipleship training for Club Beyond, and flying around America and meeting with different people. And I went back to Japan and ran their spring break. And I wasn't really enjoying travel. Like these trips were taking forever. I'd be jet lagged. I had that year an Alienware computer with a brick of a power supply. I mean, the power supply of that computer weighs more than my whole MacBook Pro now, And I realized in that year that my kids were younger. I was like, 1 week of travel a month is like too much for me. I miss my kids. I miss my wife. But my identity at this church, the local church we were going to, was like, oh, where are you going to now? How is Ireland? How is Germany? Oh, you're going back to, Portland already? And so I did enjoy a lot of when I was at the places, but the travel was my identity at this place. Like he's going around the world doing training and running things. And it was so funny. I was like, I'm proud of what I don't even enjoy because that's all that they know of me here at this church, And I was like, how stupid is that? Like, I don't even like this. Like, I don't even like this identity that I have, but I'm going to take pride in it anyway. And I just realized we can get our identity from anywhere, even if we don't enjoy it. We get life, we grasp onto these things. So
it's that never-ending search for significance.
Yeah.
Right, because what happens if you're not doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's what's the sexy story that people are kind of living vicariously through you? Yeah.
So what are some of the principles that guide you as you live life?
I think the biggest one, well, there are two and they're kind of related, and that's just mindfulness, gratitude, being present. Because whenever I focus on who I am and who I'm becoming, then I need to become a lot more aware about all the good things that are in my life. Because if I'm focused on what I'm doing, and I'm not saying you should never focus on what you're doing, right? I mean, we have work to do. We have tasks that we're putting our hands to, and we should be doing good at that. We should be doing the best we can. So anybody who's listening, I'm not suggesting that doesn't matter. I'm just saying as you triage, the elements of your life, what you do is a little lower on the ladder for me. So I look at who I am, who's around me. So I spend a lot of time setting boundaries, spend a lot of time where am I putting my time? Where am I investing my time? It's not that I'm so busy that I've got to be super critical about where I have to spend my time. No, I'm just more aware of, I don't like being around people who poor mouth and who have a lack mentality and attitude, and things are always wrong and the sky is always falling. I just don't like being around that. It just sucks the joy out of my life. I think my thing just passed out. Did you, can you still hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yep.
Okay, great. So mindfulness is important. And then this general attitude that when other people in my life win, it's great for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't feel, I've released competition, I guess. Feeling like, oh, well, I don't want people to think that I'm not making it, or, that I am not getting the things done that they think I should be getting done. I have a general sense of appreciation for anything that gets done that lifts their spirit in their life. And if my ex-wife, you would only know if you probably only know if you have been in a divorced situation, but it was amazing how many people who were not divorced or going through separation had so many legitimate opinions about how I should be leading my divorced life.
Yeah.
Well, if I was in that situation, I would. I'm like, okay. Well, the more you get into that path, you're like, oh, wait a second. If I do that, they don't know this, but if I do that, it's going to cause a lot of problems for me, or it's going to create a lot of dysfunction or whatever. And the dysfunction, to be right, is not worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely not worth
Yeah.
it. So embracing the gratefulness for the fact that I have the choice to choose peace and life in my now divorced relationship with my ex-wife. I could choose to be bitter or angry about any number of things, not the least of which is that I'm just not married anymore.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed being married.
Yeah.
So applying mercy and grace and just this awareness of, okay, well, this is the situation, and I can either go forward with animosity and anger and bitterness, or I can choose to move forward and choose healing, choose sitting with difficult emotions, that instead of running away from them and making a bigger mess, allow God to come into that moment and make it right, make it better than it was before. I told my ex-wife recently, I was like, man, for as painful as the divorce was, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I am a better person. So there's one part of me that aches that she's not getting the best of me, and yet I'm grateful that I am a better person. I'm grateful that I'm more aware. So I tell her regularly, I'm like, I pray for your success. I pray that you are wildly successful, because when you're successful, everybody will win. The kids will win. I will win. Your friends, the people that are important to you in your life will win. So as far as like just guiding high level principle is staying aware of what's going on around me and curating my daily experiences, the parts that are in my control, and then just having a general sense of goodwill that other people win. Like, buddy, I want you to win. I want you to have wild success in what you do, because who wins? We all win. Yeah. The kingdom wins. We all win if you do what you feel set out to do, led to do, and you're wildly successful. Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, just so good. Mindfulness, I think, so I had a big failure, lost, close to 200,000 or over 200,000 in a couple of business failures in Cambodia and Thailand. And after that, I kind of developed this, like, I called it my daily planner, but then it began to transform my life. So I call it now my life transformation planner. But I think one of the biggest pieces on there was just, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for today? And then, and so I would have that gratefulness there. And then, how do I intend to live today, and what's going to be great about today? And so I would do those 3 chunks. And then at the end, there's, most important tasks and calendar and those kind of things, all the normal things. But then at the bottom, I had, what were some magic moments from today that I want to remember, and how could I have made today better? And that whole thing began to transform my life. And I think the biggest thing was the gratitude piece. And about a year ago, I was on my way to immigration in Thailand, which isn't a fun, thing typically. And I was having to pay a $300 fine because we'd forgotten to check in. And as I'm driving there, in my mind, like right when I walk through the door, I'm like, this is my best trip to immigration ever. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, logically, that's not true. Usually I don't have to pay any money when I come here. But I started thinking, like, I drove here in a car that I enjoy. Like, it's fun. My wife hates it. She always tells me how it's not fun. And it broke down after I left. But I have a car that I enjoy. It's little and sporty. I have the money to pay the $300 fine where I'm not worried about it. I'm listening to, like, audiobooks as I travel over, and it was just mindset as I was walking in there. And I can't remember now if I even had to pay the fine. Like, I think I didn't even have to pay the fine when I got there, you know, like, just kind of worked out. And yeah, but it's just like, you know, and honestly, like, when you're just happy, you have to pay less fines in countries like that. Like, just 2 months ago, I was having to, again, we forgot again, and I was going to have to pay a little fine. It was smaller this time, but on the way, like, it works different in these countries. I just stop and I get a nice large, you know, iced latte for the guy that's going to be taking care of me. And I think this time the fine was just going to be like $60 or $100 or something. But I just start the conversation with, "Hey, hope you're having a great day." And I'm playing basketball a couple days later with my friend, and he's like, "Oh, we just got tagged for, you know, I think it was about $500 for their family." And I was just like, "Hey, let me tell you this trick my lawyer told me, like, always show up with a gift, you know?" So, but yeah, just wanting the best for others, and your attitude, and just being grateful as you walk through life for whatever it is. And it really isn't, you know, it's not just like woo-woo stuff. It's like, it's scientific, it's biblical. It's like how you should be going about life, you know?
Yeah, you have to elevate. I had someone in my life a few years ago when I was, you know, just the turmoil of separation and divorce. And I mean, it gets all consuming emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's just exhausting. And there's a lot of reaction, right? There's no proaction at all. You're just reacting to everything. And this person said, you know, you need to take time and think about what you're thinking about. Because like right now you're in survival and you're just firing out things, and it's usually kind of gross and a little offensive and hurtful, and it's demotivating people to help you, you know? So there's pain, right? There's grief, and you got to move through that. He wasn't telling me to not do that. Just that there is some element, albeit small in the beginning, of personal responsibility to consider what's moving through your brain. And but when you set up that daily habit of practice, like you did with the writing, over time it becomes, you start to see it. Oh, I don't have enough space on a paper. I'm literally just genuinely grateful for everything. I talked to a lady today from zoning. We're looking at building some new stuff, looking at some property, and I called because zoning is one thing. We're wanting to use it for something else. And, you know, anytime you're dealing with, you know, municipalities and changing things, that, you know, they've got rules, and the rules don't always fit what you're trying to do. But I just have this sense of gratitude that I'm even able to have the conversation. You know, I mean, I could be in a place where I'm not thinking about increasing land. I'm not increasing about building. I'm not increasing about helping more people. That could be my situation, and that would be sad. But I am in a position where I am doing those things. I am having those conversations. And even if the information isn't just point A to B, straight lines, awesome, there is some level of, I mean, even if this, you know, weren't going to work out, I would still say, wow, I'm able to have this conversation. This is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where did you get this entrepreneurial spirit from, that you launch these new things or buy a castle or whatever? Where did that come from?
Absolutely my dad. He's a total legend.
Yeah.
he was in full-time ministry. Actually, was bivocational in the beginning, but I really started to pay attention whenever I was in high school. I was like, wait, something's different here. Because he was just always just, I guess the word du jour now is hustle. Yeah. He was, back in the 80s and 90s was just on his hustle. Yeah. And I appreciated that. I appreciated the fact that it increased the quality of life for our family, and at the same time, he was helping other people. Yeah. And to see that they are synonymous with one another. Yeah. You can work to do better while also working to lift people around you. And somewhere I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to have a meeting with myself and this is going to be what motivates me and impresses me. But somewhere along the line, it kind of, the message, the unspoken message registered in my head. And so now it's off to the race, man. We're every day, like before this call, we were talking about a few things and I wonder if we could do this and this. I'm like, let's get it on, man. Let's just see what happens with it. Yeah. So definitely my pops.
That's cool. I love it that he's still working with you when he doesn't have to be, but still doing it,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and he keeps saying, I am retiring. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I want you guys to take more of the responsibility. Okay. We will. We'll do whatever. But there's too. I tell him all the time. He's over there now listening. He's got too much left in him. That cup's not even half close to being empty.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know too many people that are still banging on all cylinders at 80, 90 years old, just like getting it on.
Yeah. I'm 47 as we speak, and
nice.
I'm kind of like, okay, my next 30 years till I'm 77 is like BAM school. At least I think, like, because it's been something that God's been putting on my heart that I was kind of like, I think this is what I'm created to do, and all this other stuff is preparation. And I even felt like moving to Thailand, I was like pausing that for 5 years to do anti-human trafficking. And then my best friends were all people in Business as Mission. In fact, like the chair of the BAM Global and her husband, who's like businessasmission.com guy and the bamtraining.org guy, like they became our best friends, house church people, lived 150 meters away, And it was funny because I thought, I'm like, okay, God, I know this is my life call. I'm going to pause it because I feel like an answer to prayer or your calling on my life is to go do this thing for 5 years. And yet, like, God moved me in probably the place that was like the best preparation I could have had in the whole world to be doing what I want to do now, like the best contacts, the best conferences, and now, like, it was just like, I just was praying the other day and going, God, thank you so much. Like, I thought I was giving up and sacrificing, my dream and what I really wanted to do. And yet you were accelerating that dream all through the process, like you were doing cool stuff in the background. So let me give you the 60-second vision of what I'm looking to do.
Okay.
Right now I'm actually, part of the reason I'm in the States is 1, looking to buy a business, and 2, courting investors to help me with the down payment for that business. And I want it to be win-win-win for everyone. And the business with 25% of the profits will fund the BAM school. And I'd like there to be multiple and, like in different places around the country where, maybe one business can fund 2 or 3 cohorts of 12 students, or maybe it's just one, but there's multiple businesses that we're buying over the years that are funding schools. And then, the school and the students are providing a legacy for the investor. Maybe we're helping the investor to write a book of their life lessons or whatever. We record them over 3 or 4 days and we turn that into videos as well as a book or something. The investor is providing cash
Super.
for the business, or at least the down payment, and maybe some expertise. And then going the other way, the business is providing a 10% return on investment to the investor. Maybe the investor is doing mentoring and teaching for the school, and the students in the afternoon, in exchange for being able to come to this school and experience for free. And we'll be traveling the world, going to Europe and visiting with Business as Mission people, or people that are, in the faith and work movement. Maybe we're going to help some business out somewhere in the States. But in the afternoon, in exchange for getting this experience for free, the students are working on marketing and business growth for the business. And
How great.
so that's, in a nutshell, what I'm looking to do. So Adam Jones,
Wow.
prophet, encourager, man who does business for good. Give me your feedback, your thoughts. What do I need to be aware of? What do I need to run after?
Man, I mean this. I think this is such a solid setup. And here's the reason why I say that, is because you are an educator and you are a businessman, and you know what it takes to be an investor, because you've invested in other things. You've been burned as an investor. And I think you have also benefited from being an investor, whether in your own ideas or in other ideas. I'm looking at this as a parent, actually, and I think, man, how this is everything I would want for my child to experience, or twofold, actually. It's one thing to, well, I'll use an example. My oldest son writes music. He's got a band. They've been investing in their own music. I've made some investment into their music. And no one is showing them about the business of music. They're showing them how to make music. They're showing them how to produce music. Plenty of people are wanting to take their money to record music, to make their music available, but no one's showing them how to, because at the very bottom you say legacy for the investor. Well, it's more than just legacy for the investor, right? It's a legacy for the actual student. Yeah. Because it's not a faucet to turn on, it's a field to be planted. So a lot of people will take money to just switch the faucet on and off, and you learn nothing. Like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
But if I can plant a field, and then I know what those seeds are that are going to keep giving me a return, that just seems like double-sided coin, just beautiful on both sides, for both the person helping get it started, to give the people that need an opportunity, that are willing to put the work in to do, to continue the symbiotic thing, to just keep going.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's clear feedback or not.
No, it's good.
This is wonderful. And any landmines that are in there that you obviously can't see from this image or graphic, I mean, those are, you're the type of guy that'll pivot quick to do what needs to be done. This is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super
awesome. Well done.
Yeah. I'm super excited about it. I mean, I feel like it's just something God has been, birthing in me over time, and, just bringing it, all together. So, so that's how I hope to be investing. And, one of the things for me, like in 2014, I just had all these things about movement of God, like books I was reading, mentors, people in my life. The last one, I went to the Philippines to recruit some missionaries for our work in Cambodia. And I get on the plane and God says, you're not going to recruit any missionaries. And at the time I was overly busy. I hope to never be that stupid busy, but with discipleship and anti-trafficking, it was just, nuts. And I was like, God, I don't have time to go to the Philippines for 5 days just for like fun. And in the middle of that, when I got to the Philippines, I actually realized I got to see a movement of God, a discipleship movement that has now seen over 1 million people come to Christ. And the last speaker was one of the first 4 guys discipled, at the very beginning. And he starts talking about movement of God. And I'm just sitting in the audience and getting chills and going, wow, I'm here kind of complaining that I went and wasted 5 days, but really I'm getting to see a movement of God. And so like I could do this school. I've already done one. I could do one school a year and make a living from it and be happy. And I would enjoy that, making 12 disciples every year. And I actually think there'd be less complications and problems. One business, one school, sit on the beach for 6 months a year. But I felt like God was like, no, this needs to be like, I want this to be a movement. I want you to facilitate a movement of me through the world, through business. And so that's where I needed the component of there's scholarships for students to come to this for free. And then that got me thinking about the business funding it and even bringing in investors to be like, hey, great, you made 20 million or 50 million or whatever million. Let's use this for a kingdom purpose. And it's great if you want to give, like we're not opposed to receiving gifts, but if you'd like to give in a way that you're getting a 10% return on your investment, let's do that too, wow. So yeah, so that's kind of just how God brought that about for us. And
it's so good.
Yeah. Excited about it. So
praise the Lord, man. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I know critical feedback would be awesome right now. I just don't, because some of it's nuance. Mm-hmm. So for some, for the investment, the 10% return may not be the driving factor.
Yeah.
If they know that if they're making a legacy, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I would just be aware of, I would have multiple ways for people to invest, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's cool.
Consider it.
Yeah.
Maybe you get out there and I'm completely wrong and 100% of people want more percent return.
Yeah.
My experience has been if they know they are investing in people and they have an opportunity to replicate and they're hands-on while they're doing it, I think it's super. This is such a stellar idea.
Yeah. Thanks, man. What have been some of your biggest challenges over the years?
The big challenge was divorce with 5 young kids. A lot of people say you'll see it coming, but in my case, it just blindsided me.
Yeah.
And that could have been partially my fault, but that was tough. And then we had a big housing project that didn't go through recently. And that was a lot.
Yeah.
Those are big things where you feel like, these are, without a calling, the basic things I should be able to do and do well. Yeah. And so working through that those have been great challenges.
Yeah.
Really great challenges.
Yeah. So in your current role, what are the things that you most enjoy about what you do in the day to day?
Being creative, having to see, because sometimes the disappointments or the curveballs that come at you, they can feel like they clog up your field of view. I mean, it's like almost all you can see. It can feel overwhelming. So the opportunity to step back and get out of the proverbial traffic and spend time observing, I enjoy doing that. I mean, I don't enjoy when things aren't working out the way you want them to. The easy path is, I think we like no anxiety kind of life, right? When things are easy, but we weren't built for easy. I mean, even in scripture, I see that we were built for the valley. We were built for darkness. And taking the light into those areas and allowing God. When things are easy, I don't even need God. I don't need his guidance. I don't need his peace. I don't need anything. Because the situation sustains itself. But when you find yourself in tough moments, or you didn't get the answer you wanted, or things seem to be taking a curve, those are moments where the creativity, God's creativity, his insight, his provision, to be able to observe and watch that happen almost, in my experience in real time, has been just remarkable.
Yeah.
And so I'll end with this, or this piece is that, and I like what my dad says too, is that if you're going to do something, you've got to give God something to work with. Well, what if it doesn't work out? Well, you have to create enough space for God to do something, to fill that vacuum. So BAM School, you're creating space, a vacuum for God to fill. And when he fills it, that's when things get wild and crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a 400-year-old castle. Maybe it's a 7-acre piece of property that's got creeks on both sides, and it's just beautiful, and you can see it clearly. So I think those moments are yes and. Yes, there's the vacuum, and watch God fill it.
Yeah. Watch
him bring people across your path and be like, hey man, I don't know why I need to do this, but I feel like this is what I should be getting involved in.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, you're never going to believe this, but I created a vacuum and God's starting to fill it, and he's using you to do it.
Yeah.
So what I love most about my job right now, or my responsibility, is just the creativity and creating space for God to do something.
Cool. And what are your dreams for the future? What do you hope the next 50 years to be about?
I hope I continue to become a better person. That I instinctually rely on God, and more on God and less on myself. And that I can continue to have the faith to be productive in no particular definition, other than that I'm reliable to God, that he can, that, I don't know, that whole father-son reliability thing. Like I want to be seen as reliable, dependable, and not with any particular title or thing, rather than who I am is better.
Yeah. That's great.
What contribution am I going to possibly make to the business world that isn't going to be 1,000x or 1,000,000x beyond what I could ever provide or bring? So my value has got to be, in my case, in my little 2-foot square foot space, how can I be the best me, spirit, mind, and body, which we're working on the body, you know what I mean? But how can I be the best me in those 3 areas to bring that into the roles that I play, my responsibilities, tasks, all of that, to impact more people? So what ends up happening is that it does center around people. I mean, everything I hear you saying, if it's a product or service, people. If it's rescuing people, people. If it's investors, it's people. If it's people are literally, if it's housing, it's people. If it's the bank that you're trying to get funding from, it's people. It's all people. The whole thing is people. And it's amazing we spend so much time on the task, focusing on the task and the end result, that all of the interactions along the way are just a means to an end rather than the end themselves. So spending time becoming stronger in every way, the natural things that will happen as a result of that they can't help but happen. So BAM School, when Buddy is bringing his best, spending time with friends, going out, encouraging people, taking coffee, serving people that may have an opportunity to do harm or to trip up your day, staying in a positive mindset, all of those things, the results, I mean, maybe you couldn't control the result, right? I mean, maybe if you were only looking at trying to not get the $500 bill or $300 bill or fine or whatever it was, you could focus on that being the outcome and still miss it and still not have any joy as a result. So, I mean, if you're focusing on your joy, focusing on your attitude, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to serve this guy. I'm going to serve this gal. I'm going to go get coffee and I'm going to bring it to them. They're probably still going to give me the fine, whatever. That's my minimum expectation.
Yeah.
But they're going to remember me. They're going to remember when I leave, like, what was that all about?
Yeah.
You know, get them asking the questions. It's like that investment piece. I guess at this part of my life, I want to do that better.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, hey man, you know, how many units of apartments you have? Okay, well, maybe that's a sexy story And at some point, I want people to remember how they feel whenever they're not. I hope they feel better when they're around me. Like if it's just for a few minutes. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So these next 30, 40, 50 years, I want that.
Yeah.
You know what? Read the obituaries. Read the obituaries.
Yeah.
Read down through there, and some are just acknowledgments of Adam Jones died on this date. Okay. But then some people are taking out quarter page ads, and you're like, oh, what happened here? Oh, they died 10 years ago? They're still running half page ads 10 years later.
Yeah.
What kind of impact did this person make in a family's life or in a business's life? You just see that it matters.
Yeah.
Those things matter. How you treat people and how you serve them. And
I always enjoy our time together. In fact, till the day I die, one of my favorite memories will be us driving down that street in Japan, Kokusai Street, the shopping street. I don't know if you remember this. And
I do. When we Tokyo drifted.
We did the 180 drift into traffic going the other direction and just started moving in the other ways. But love, just love when I get time with you, and look forward to seeing you in Oklahoma in the next year or two, man.
Oh, buddy, I'd be grateful. I'm honored to have had some time on your platform. Thanks so much. I love seeing you, talking to you, being around you. You always make me feel better. I'm grateful.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah.
BAM School, facilitating a global, self-funding, disciple-making movement through business. Thanks for tuning in to the BAM School podcast. Find show notes, free courses, resources, and more at 4bam.com.